Hey, how's it going? Can I sit here? Is this okay? Let's talk. Today we're going to talk about the fight for equality for men and women. It's important. It's insinuated in the name. I made notes for this one, so I'm going to reference it on my laptop. I decided that we could chat outside today because it's nice out. I don't know if you can see the sky in this, but it's freaking blue as hell. So today we're going to talk about the fight for equality and why it's still incredibly important and why I would love for you to be a part of it. I'm also going to try to dismantle some of the many arguments that a lot of men use against this fight and show you why it's so important to understand those and why they are not an appropriate response. I want to preface by saying one of the worst responses to the fight for equality is men and women saying that it's not that big of a deal. I've seen a lot of people say that women aren't oppressed, especially in the United States, and that feminists are overreacting, and that there's nothing to fight for anymore because we have the right to vote and we can have bank accounts. So why do we even care about anything else, right? And I understand that mentality a lot, actually, because I used to have that mentality. I used to think that women weren't really oppressed. This is because I lived a sheltered life. I was given a privilege to not experience a lot of these sexist behaviors firsthand. It's just not true. Just because my experience does not support the fact that oppression is still here in our society, and just because your experience doesn't support that does not mean that it is not still a huge issue. Additionally, I'm willing to bet that you have experienced it and you just haven't even noticed it, because that's what happened to me. I realized later on that I had experienced it in my major and I had experienced it in high school and I didn't know. So that's something that I realized in the last 6 months, and I want to try to help you realize it now. So A, you can be more aware of it. B, you know how to better respond to it. And C, you can join us in this fight for equality, both just speaking out about it or what have you. I'm talking to all genders right now, by the way. The fight for equality should not just be on the shoulders of women. While they are leading the movement because they are usually more impacted by our society's inequalities of men and women, we still really need men in this fight. I also want to give people a trigger warning for sexual assault. Just be aware that I'm going to talk about those things in this video. So I'm going to talk about 6 responses that I have heard and why they are not an appropriate response. Okay, you ready? Let's dive in. The first thing I want to talk about today is the 97% statistic that was just released that everyone seems to be talking about. So just to give you more information on that statistic, it was a statistic found in the UK of over 1,000 women aged between 18 to 24, and 97% of them said that they have been sexually harassed in a workplace or a public place. And more than 70% of women of all ages have also experienced that behavior. The UK used this study to prove a point, A, and B, to have people in charge of these public places institute our solutions now by the time the lockdown ends. And then they also put a quote in here that says, "We are looking at a situation where younger women are constantly modifying their behavior in an attempt to avoid being objectified or attacked, and older women are reporting serious concerns about personal safety if they ever have to leave their house in the dark, even during the daytime in the winter." The main things that they're calling for to change is better designed public spaces, education reform, which is a huge one, and they also want more robust reporting system because a lot of women will not report this behavior. And it's clear why, right? Have you seen the responses that this statistic got from men? Because it's very clear why women do not speak up about these things. It's because when we do, we are questioned, we are shut down, we are gaslit, we are told we're wrong, we're told we're being overdramatic. Anything that they could think of to just dismantle the entire argument and stop us from talking about it. No, we're done not talking about it, okay? So the main issue that I'm seeing responded to this 97% is that, oh, they included staring or getting a hug as sexual harassment. That's why the number was so high. I'm looking right now that it included experiences such as unwelcome sexual advances, comments or jokes, indecent exposure, being catcalled, groped, touched, physically followed, and receiving suggestive content in line or in person. I don't even think that staring was in this, but let's talk about it. So they're saying that this list isn't bad enough and women are overreacting or what have you, that it's not as bad as the 97%. Okay, we're telling you that it makes us uncomfortable. We're telling you that these behaviors make us nervous, they scare us, they concern us. We're telling you that we don't like these behaviors. If staring was on here, I would understand that, because when a man is staring at you for an extended period of time, how are we supposed to know where it's going to stop? How do we know that that staring isn't going to turn into following, turn into groping, turn into touching, turn into sexual assault? How are we supposed to know the difference? Do you understand what I'm saying? All of these behaviors are so concerning to us because we don't know when you're going to stop. So we're telling you that after that statistic in the UK came out, and every single thing that I've seen about it online has every single woman agreeing that yes, that's happened to her as well. We're telling you that's not okay. So if you think, okay, catcalling is a compliment, why isn't she taking it as a compliment? We're telling you we're not. Stop arguing with us. Listen to the fact that we're saying it makes us uncomfortable and stop. It's literally as simple as that, okay? Just stop. So again, going back to my first point where a lot of women don't think that men and women are treated differently by society, ask yourself, has any of those things happened to you? Has a boy ever sent you nudes or begged you for nudes? Has he ever followed you around or persistently hounded you for something until you gave in? Older men, have they ever followed you, looked at you for an uncomfortable period of time, followed you around a store? Has someone ever made a comment about your body as you're walking past them or as they drive by? Those are all sexual harassment. So now, if you're a man or boy, have you ever begged a girl for something until she gave in? Have you ever made inappropriate comments about a girl to your friends and laughed about it? Have you ever sent a girl a picture or begged her for pictures of her body? Yeah, you're part of the 97% too, but you're the other side, okay? And that's the behavior that we have decided has always been unacceptable, but I'm so glad that we're finally talking about it. Women don't and haven't talked about it, because when we do, we are told that we're overreacting and that it's not that big of a deal. I just want you to know that if you ever do try to talk to someone about it and you're told those things, they're just trying to silence you. They're trying to keep this conversation at bay, because when we finally decide as a society that this is not okay, they're not going to get to do those things anymore. That's why it's so concerning to some men that we're finally talking about it. And that's why they're doing all these things to stop the conversation or derail the conversation, because they like being on top. They like the power that they hold over women. We're done, okay? Don't let that silence you. So yes, I do believe the statistic that says 97% of women between 18 and 24 have experienced sexual harassment. I'm actually surprised it's not 100. If women actually understood what sexual harassment meant and understood like, oh, wow, I'm part of the 97%, that number would go up. And if men took an opposing survey, have you sexually harassed someone, and they realized what it actually entails, they would most likely be found guilty of it too, because we've been just pretending that it's harmless. But these behaviors directly lead into violence. All of these harmless behaviors completely influence the behaviors that will permanently change someone's life. They are a big deal. Please, if you're the person who keeps trying to dismiss this 97% statistic, stop. You're hurting us. You're making it worse. If you actually cared, you would be holding your fellow men accountable instead of trying to shut women up. Okay, so that was topic number 1, the 97% statistic. If you are in the 97% statistic, I know that I am. I am sorry that you had to experience that fear and that uncomfortable feeling that you don't know if you're going to be safe. And I just wanted to say that I'll go over behaviors that unfortunately women should try to have tucked in their back pocket until we get this under control, because for now there are still going to be men out there that are like that. And so I'm going to try to help you arm yourself with, strategies that will help you stay safe. The second topic I want to talk about is the narrative that we use as a whole, talking about violence against women and this inequality that we're all experiencing. It's something so subtle that I did not even notice it until last week. When we're talking about these things, we say X% of women were raped this year. X% of women experienced sexual harassment. We never even include the man in the conversation. It's never X% of men sexually harassed women. That subconsciously puts the blame, the pressure, and the obligation for change on women. After the death of Sarah Everard, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, on March 3rd, 2021 in the UK, the response from the police in that area was for women to not go out at night. Why did they address us, women, to change our behaviors when Sarah did nothing wrong? We do nothing wrong. And yet we're the ones who have to keep adapting our behaviors because men can't restrain themselves enough to not harass, assault, and murder us? No, our behavior is not the problem. So when we're talking about these things, men have to be included in the narrative. They have to take some of that blame and some of that pressure off of our shoulders, because that's where it belongs. On their shoulders, not on ours. I also want to say that it's incredibly upsetting that it took the death of a woman doing absolutely everything correctly and for her death to be done by a police officer for us to finally start talking about this. Don't let the gaslighting and the shaming and the silencing push us down again. We have to keep pushing through this. We have to push until change actually happens. The third topic that I want to talk about is the response and the new hashtag trending, not all men, and why not only is it inappropriate, but it's actually quite harmful. Obviously, it's not all men, but the behaviors of some men that other men do not hold them accountable for. Other men are silent when they partake in these behaviors. The men that are enabling that, also part of the problem. So for example, if your friend catcalls a woman on the street, if your friend begs a girl for pictures, if your friend coerces a girl into anything and you don't say anything, yeah, you're one of the men that we're talking about. One of the biggest changes that I need to see come out of this is more men getting involved. That is what will make one of the biggest differences in this movement, because if you start holding your friends accountable, that would make a huge difference. If at a bar your friend is doing something that's sleazy and gross and you say, hey, stop, that would make a difference. So yeah, it's not all men, but it's a lot of them. And it's most of them. Let me give you an example on if it were flipped. Let's say I see a video of a guy and he says, oh my God, yesterday a girl just came up to me and stabbed me for no reason. And all of my friends have also been stabbed by women at one point in their life. My first response would not be, well, not all women would stab you. For 3 reasons. 1, it's completely derailing the conversation. We are talking about the person and people who are getting stabbed, okay? 2, it's not about me. It's not about my perception and what I think the world would do. There are no statistics to back up, well, not all women would do that. None. Completely irrelevant. And 3, you're saying it to derail and dismantle this conversation. You are not saying it to raise awareness for the men that are also negatively impacted by the society that we have right now. You do not have good intentions when you're saying not all men. Instead, your response should be lifting up that person's voice, amplifying it, It should be raising awareness about this problem, and it should be listening and making sure that other women don't keep stabbing men randomly for no reason. Do you see the difference there in those two reactions? One is extremely immature and self-absorbed, and the other one is very open-minded and understanding and adult-like. In that same realm, let's talk about the difference between when men speak out about assault versus when women speak out about it. On profiles of men who get involved in this, the support that they get from mostly women is incredible. They say, "We understand, we're listening, we're here for you, we're sorry." Now, if you see the same video, but a woman is talking about it, the responses are filled with men and boys. What were you wearing? Why were you out? You could have fought harder. Did you bring pepper spray? Well, at least he's still hit. Proof for it didn't happen. Why are you trying to ruin his reputation? Do you see the differences in those two responses and how completely unacceptable the second one is? Women respond with emotion and love when we see men that are getting that treatment. We do not respond with, "Well, what were you wearing? Well, what did you do to provoke it? What did you say?" No, it's a huge issue, and it's completely unacceptable. I am aware that there are some stories that are made up to tarnish the reputation of some people. The actual percentages of the sexual assault and rape charges that actually make it to a court, the percentage of those that are dismissed as false are somewhere between 2 and 10%. There is a range because it's so hard to prove it, but it's somewhere between 2 and 10%. And a lot of those are just dismissed because the women give up. Because fighting in court over something like this, absolutely draining and exhausting and incredibly hard to do. So if we look at that, and then you look at the number of women who say that they've been sexually harassed or assaulted, your argument that this woman could be lying, statistically, no. This is an incredibly sensitive topic, and if you see a video of a woman coming out and speaking about it and you do not know her at all, it is not your position to decide whether she's making it up or not. It is not your position to judge her based off of what she was wearing or what she was doing when it happened, okay? So sit down. Another common response to women speaking out about this is, well, men get raped too. And yes, they do. Are you saying that as an additional information, or are you saying that to, again, dismantle the conversation and turn it away from the ridiculous amount of women that experience rape in their lifetime? As of 1998, an estimated 17.7 million American women have been victims of attempted or completed rape. As of 1998, 2.78 million men in the United States alone have been victims of attempted or completed rape. As we're fighting for this equality, we are focusing on the biggest problem, which is that 18 million women have been raped since 1998, and 97% of women in the UK are sexually harassed or have been sexually harassed in public. That's what we're talking about. It is important for us to talk about men who are also victims of this. It's also tough because while women are less likely to report it because of everything that I've kind of talked about in this video, men are also less likely to report it, again, from social pressure and social stigmas that exist. But people weaponizing male victims against female victims, not okay. Not okay. If you actually care and you're listening to a woman talk about this, you would not talk about male victims, because it's not about this person, her talking about her experiences, not about male victims right now, okay? Focus on what's being talked about. Don't try to derail the conversation. Don't try to bring up, well, what about this? What about, no. Let this person talk, lift up their voice, help them, listen to them. It's important for us to talk about males that are sexually assaulted, so talk about it, but not on someone else's video talking about her own personal experiences or about women who experience it. It's not a competition. You cannot weaponize them against each other. That's not okay, and we see through that. So stop it. The last thing that I see all the time on people talking about this is men saying, "Where's the love in your heart? Let's move on. Let's move forward. Why are you trying to create gender wars? Like, let's put this behind us." While you may think that you have good intentions in saying those things, that's literally just gaslighting. Again, a different form of making us stop talking about this incredibly important issue. We will feel the love in our hearts and offer forgiveness when these numbers go way down. We will feel the love in our hearts when we're actually treated equally, okay? Until then, we're going to keep talking about this. We're going to keep fighting for equality. We're going to keep calling people out on their shit. And it's not spreading negativity or smearing men's names or victimizing white men. We're talking about an issue, and just because you may identify as someone who is the person in the wrong in these situations doesn't mean that we're going to stop talking about it. If you realize that you're relating to the person that we're calling out, you have some self-reflection to do. So, instead of doing all of these behaviors that I have told you are problematic when we're talking about this, saying the 97% statistic is wrong, using a narrative that puts all of the blame and pressure and obligation for change on women alone, saying not all men, responding to women with questions and doubt, and telling us to get over it, move on, feel the love in your heart. All of these things, very harmful to us and what we're trying to achieve. Instead of doing those things, if you actually want to help us make this change, because it'll affect you too, it affects men as well, here are some things you can do. You can lift up the voices of people talking about this, both men and women. You can use your own platform, if you have one, to spread this information. Educate yourself as much as you can on the topic, whether it's just listening to people talk about it, listening to people talk about their experiences, whatever it is, try to understand it more. Do your best effort to try and walk a mile down the street in a woman's shoes and try to understand what it's like. Hold your friends and yourself accountable. Hold their behaviors accountable to them. Tell them when things are wrong. Don't laugh or participate in sexist jokes. They're not funny anymore. It's 2021. Grow up. Stand up for women. If you see women that are being made uncomfortable by men, help them. Stand up for them. Get involved. Fight with us to make this change, because having men involved in this movement would make a huge difference. These behaviors go all the way back to our childhood, and we have so much work to do, but unlearning these harmful behaviors is such a great place to start. So please do your part, whether it's talking to your male friends, or whether it's you're a guy and you talk to your guy friends and try to get them to understand it. We need to start talking. So that's another great way to help. Now I want to talk to my younger female audience for a sec. I was in STEM. I was in an architectural major, and while I was lucky enough to not have to experience a lot of sexism, it is still in a lot of STEM majors, especially engineering. But I want you to know that if you have talent in these realms, if you simply have a passion for technology, math, engineering, whatever it is, don't let the heavy male presence scare you away, because it's changing. The numbers are getting closer and closer every year. We need women like you in these fields. And I know you're smart enough, and I know that you can succeed. Yes, you have to push a little bit harder because you have to earn respect instead of getting it automatically, but it's worth it. When I found out that STEM fields were majority male, I actually was excited because I wanted to get in there and I wanted to prove a point. I grew up under a single mom. Growing up under that influence, I always knew that I had the ability. And so I want to be that person for you. I want you to know that you have that ability, and to not let something like a predominantly male field scare you away. If you have questions about STEM or college, please let me know. I would love to answer them. I want to help young women be strong, independent, and to know that you are in control of your own life. I want you to succeed in this male-oriented world. The biggest change that we need is socially, and we're in control of that. I know this video was a little longer than they normally are, and it was a little more serious than they normally are, but this is a very important topic. And I'm just kind of using this as an opening to what else I'm going to do in this series on my channel. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around till the end. I hope this cleared up some issues with the feminist movement that's kind of taken a huge blow this month. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section and let's get a discussion going. It's very important that we just talk about these things. I've been talking for so long that the sun's on me now. You are smart, you are strong, and you are important. I love you. Have a good week.